our fearless leader is here somewhere in the building and he will be here shortly, but I'm going to get the meeting started. Call the roll, please.
Director Schenk,
I see her.
She's there.
Tell her to unmute. Lynn, unmute.
Okay, I'm here.
thank you. Chair Richards, Director Camacho,
Here.
Vice Chair Miller,
Present.
Director Perea,
Here.
Director Escutia,
Here.
Director Williams, Director Worth,
Here.
Director Cohen,
Here.
Assembly Member Carrillo, Senator Caballero. We have a quorum.
Thank you. And just for those of you that are on through Zoom, we can hear you perfectly. Thank you. And here comes our chair, but can you go ahead and read the public announcement and we'll go to public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Good morning, everyone. Before we begin public comment for the California High-Speed Rail Board of Directors meeting, I would like to review some important information. For members of the public who have joined us in person and wish to provide public comment, you will be called up in the order we received your card. If you are joining the meeting via Zoom and wish to provide public comment, please use the raise your hand feature located at the bottom of the app. Speakers will be called on in the order their hands are raised. Once you're in the queue and your name is called, please click the prompt on your screen to allow your microphone to be unmuted. If we have any callers joining by phone, I will give you instructions on how you can make a public comment following the Zoom participants. All speakers will be given 2 minutes to speak. I will remind you when you have 15 seconds remaining. When it is your time to speak, please slowly and clearly say your first and last name, and if applicable, please state the organization you are representing. I'm just going to recall the roll real quickly here. Chair Richards and Director Williams. No worries. Thank you. All right. Our first in-person speaker will be Gary Holland, followed by Frank Quintero.
Good morning.
Gary Holland. I'm with the City of Bakersfield. I'm here today to represent Bakersfield and provide some feedback and some comments about kind of the state of things. We have not heard from yet officially from the high-speed rail as a collective. Kern Cog, Kern County, City of Wasco, City of Shafter, they're here also today, as well as the City of Bakersfield, had sent a letter requesting ongoing communication. And so I'm here to reinstate that, to say how important that is. As a member of the working class and those that work with the public, we know when there's a vacuum of information, a vacuum of communication, we create our own story, and that's never good. So we would very much like to have an ongoing regular seat at the table. Kern County has the most track of this line of any county along high-speed rail in the state. And so we do feel like a seat at the table is warranted. We also understand that station movement is being talked about. We're not interested in that. Just to let you know our position, I think you probably knew that. We love where the station is. We think it's going to enhance our downtown. It allows for walkability, the potential, again, this vacuum of creating different stories and what we're hearing and rumors. The other locations of a station near the City of Bakersfield or away from the center of town does not include walkability and enhancement.
15 seconds.
Again, just want to express our frustration that we want to be at the seat at the table, and we feel like we need a seat at the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. And I suspect you might be aware that I have been in touch with Mr. Schlosser at your Kern Cog. I've also talked with some people at the City of Wasco. So it's in process of getting all the information together, and we'll look forward to meeting with everyone. Thank you.
And just want to remind our board members and our speakers to speak clearly and into the microphone. Next up is Frank Quintero, followed by Lance Lippincott.
Good morning, Mr. Quintero.
Good morning, Chair Richards and Board. Thank you for the discussions we have been having since August to present. I believe that a lot of our concerns are being addressed and continue to be addressed. Also, while attending the Assembly Committee meeting on Monday, items such as SB 198, land use control, tax increment financing, and even again, it was raised about bypassing Merced to increase ridership. Those items just raised a little red flag of concern for us. So we just want to make sure that we continue the dialogue and discussions concerning these items. And before a decision is made to proceed with these, that Merced and Merced County and our Association of Governments have a seat at the table. Again, we are grateful for the communications we are having with you. And I want to compliment your staff as they were questioned Monday, did an outstanding job responding to the legislators who were asking the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, and we're pretty proud of the staff also.
Our final in-person speaker will be Lance Lippincott.
Good morning,
Good
Lance Lippincott. I'm with the city of Shafter. So recently Shafter was kind of thrown for a loop when high-speed rail came to our community and proposed a complete new build out through the center of town, despite us having a 2018 settlement agreement. Sounds like that's reverted back, but it kind of brings up a bigger issue that's been kind of historic with high-speed rail. Worked with high-speed rail across 4 different jurisdictions, 3 of whom have had stations. And the one thing that has been consistent has been incredibly poor communication. Now, I really want to applaud the newest staff because they have been reaching out to us consistently and they've been very much helpful. But we get the impression that a lot of this stuff is being planned in the back rooms and then rolled out to us as a completed package. I would just reiterate Gary's request. There needs to be a seat at the table for Kern County. I understand Shafter is small. We're probably not the best one to sit at the table, but we do need a representative that actually holds our values and our pushes. Just want to say thank you guys, and that would be our biggest request.
Thank you, sir, and we're happy to have you at the table.
We will now move on to our Zoom speakers. Once again, if you are joining the meeting via Zoom and wish to provide public comment, please use the raise your hand feature located at the bottom of your screen. If you are dialing in by phone, press the number 2. This will raise your hand and put you into our queue. Speakers will be called on by the last 4 digits of your phone number. At that point, you will hear a message that your phone is being unmuted. Our first Zoom speaker is Mark Newberger.
Thank
Good
you.
morning.
I'm providing comments on behalf of the California State Association of Counties. Specifically, the comments I'm going to focus on today are 4 of the authorities' legislative priorities and that they are pursuing in 2026, outlined in the January CEO report, as well as the 2026 draft business plan that are creating concerns for CSAC. The theme of partnership runs through many of the high-speed rail authorities' past business plans project updates. However, any effective partnership, especially those of counties and local governments, requires an understanding of the needs of the partners involved. CSAC is supportive of the goals of the project and understands the challenges that the high-speed rail project faces. Yet in the authority's 2026 legislative priorities and draft 2026 business plan, that theme of partnership in the authority's approach ignores the needs of counties and local communities impacted by the project. We would ask you to reference the letter we submitted to the board earlier this week for our specific details, but in short, CSAC is providing the following comments. First, the authority's priority to obtain tax increment finance authority is something that CSAC opposes. Efforts for the authority to grant them unilateral ability to create tax increment finance in districts and land use authority create concerns. In short, the concern is that these are potentially unconstitutional efforts that get in the way of these vital local resources for community development. Creating these special financing districts requires partnership, local support, and community buy-in, not external imposition. Second is the authority's proposal for around sales tax and being relieved of sales tax duties. While we have not seen specific language, we're concerned that the proposal as described could reduce local sales tax revenues for counties and cities, as well as other special districts, which is completely unacceptable. Again, these communities rely on sales tax to provide local public services and utilities to the communities that the high-speed rail project runs through. Finally, we're concerned about the proposal around utility relocations, as well as the concerns for the authority to be relieved of their requirement to spend and complete the Merced-Bakersfield project section in the Central Valley.
Thank you, sir.
Next up is Marcus Detweiler.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Marcus Detweiler with the California Special Districts Association, CSDA. CSDA would align its comments with the California State Association of Counties. CSDA would oppose any attempt to redirect tax revenues away from affected taxing agencies without their express, their meaningful, and their freely given consent. CSDA likewise opposes improperly shifting any costs associated with utility relocations and or betterments onto local agencies. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Our final Zoom speaker will be Damon Conklin.
Hi, this is Damon Conklin with the League of California Cities, and just want to echo some of the earlier comments. California cities support a modern and statewide high-speed rail system. However, we do oppose any proposal that shifts and threatens local revenues away from local municipalities to state projects. We see on page 32 of the business plan, the capturing of incremental value of investments in stations, facilities, and air right leases and joint developments would be enhanced by enabling the authority to initiate and lead, emphasis added there, enhanced infrastructural financing districts with local partners and related to tax incremental tools across the city and county boundaries. We have major concerns with this proposal. We've been told repeatedly that there's no bill, there's no language, but when we see language like that, it raises constitutional issues, especially with passing money across county boundaries. This appears to be an unprecedented proposal that would threaten local revenues and local control. That's not a partnership. It seems to be a preemption. We do want to collaborate with the rail authority, but we want to do it in a meaningful way. So we are looking forward to working with the rail authority moving forward in a collaborative manner, but we need to see what language they're deliberating on. So thank you very much, and look forward to future conversations.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, we have no other attendees that would like to provide public comment at this time.
All right, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to start out by just announcing that we're going to have a change in order of today's agenda, and sorry for this late notice. But the closed session, which was originally scheduled for item number 1, will now be just before, right after the Finance and Audit Report meeting, which is at the bottom end of our agenda. So what we're going to do in the interim is we're going to move forward with the items on the agenda exclusive of the closed session, as I mentioned. So that would put us in at item number 2, which is to consider the approval of the board meeting minutes of January 21st of 26.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Director Schenk,
Yes.
Chair Richards.
Yeah.
Director Camacho.
Yeah.
Vice Chair Miller,
Yes.
Director Perea.
Yes.
Director Escutia, Director Williams,
Aye.
Director Worth,
Abstain.
Director Cohen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
What we're going to do is back up and do the Pledge of Allegiance. It's never too late. And I'd like where's Henry? Henry, would you lead it, please? To the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now move on to second agenda item for this morning, which is to consider the approval or consider approving the issuance of invitation for bids for the procurement of cable troughs. Good morning, Ms. Morrison.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Richards, Vice Chair Miller, members of the board. Emily Morrison, I'm here today to add an additional rail material that we are looking to procure in advance of our track and systems construction contract that we currently have out on the market. If you can recall, you can get this. Uh-oh. Hold on. I'm sorry. There is a delay. All right. We are back in August of 2025. I came to the board for approval for various rail materials, which included our rail, our poles, the ties, the ballast, along with our OCS components and copper wire cabling that we received approval for. We are coming back to the board today for requesting approval for the cable troughs that we need and releasing an invitation for bid. And we are, this will be on the basis of a lowest responsible bid from a responsible bidder. Sorry, technical difficulties with the slide. The original IFB that I came for approval back in August was for a total of 507,100 and for those materials. We are seeking authorization to add just the cable troughs. We are not at this time requesting any additional funds exceeding that original $507.1 million request. As before, these materials are for the 119-mile first construction section, and it will be 100% state funded. We are following all FRA and federal guidelines for these rail procurements, despite being paid with state funds. For each materials contract, we're doing a notice to proceed. There will be multiple notice to proceed, including NTP1, which is what I'm here for you today. And this will be for the 119 miles from Madera to Poplar. We will come back to the board for additional approval for NTPs 2, 3, and 4. Cable trough. So a cable trough is a containment that will be situated along the alignment that will be the primary housing for wayside cabling used for the systems that will facilitate the operation of the high-speed railroad. This containment will be placed adjacent to the track alongside the right-of-way. So currently, we had anticipated that the cable troughs would be procured by our track and systems contractor. We had determined during our procurement that there was a lead time for these cable troughs that were approximately 4 to 6 months. We determined in order for us to lay rail in 2026, we decided to go in advance to do this procurement, and that way all of the materials will line up in advance for the track and systems contract later in this year. The present anticipates approximately 120 miles of cable trough for NTP1 with an anticipated order in Q4 of 2026 for 20 total miles. The contract, like the other materials purchase requests, will be for the total is cumulative is $507.1 million. The duration of the contract will be 4 years. The contract will be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder. And the materials, like I stated before, do follow all federal guidelines that these must abide by Buy America and Build America compliance. The staff will complete the solicitation documents. We're currently completing those. We're seeking approval to release this procurement very, very shortly after the board. The invitations for bid are scheduled to begin March this month with a contract award planned for Q2 and first delivery in Q4. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions?
Go ahead, Anthony.
No, go ahead. Thank you, Emily. The small business program role, we get a report back after procurement has come back, let us know what those goals have been, if in fact they've accomplished anything in terms of meeting those goals.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are looking to determine where in the business we can support the small business goals for these material procurements and looking to find ways that we can utilize small business along the supply chain and delivery for these items. And we'd be happy to provide that information for you.
I realize there's been some pauses in how we procure things and whether or not SB or small business goals have been, are still attainable. But I'd like to, it's a horrible message to send out to the business community that we are not going to look at accomplishing the goals that we've originally.
I'm sorry, Ernie, could you speak into the microphone because we're having trouble hearing you?
Okay.
Oh, much better. Thank you.
What I was saying is that if we could come back, or they could report back what the small business goals have attained on this particular procurement or any other procurements.
Mhm.
I realize that there have been some stalls with, because of the political climate we're in, but it's a bad message to send out to the business community that we will not be looking at goals to be satisfied. Or here in State of California.
Well, and to present, so my next follow-up item is I will be talking about the IDIQ. And so we are very aggressively pursuing meeting our small business goals. Our multiple award task order contract, which should be awarding this month. The goal of that contract is to allow small businesses to act as primes to complete this work and in an effort. In addition, the large businesses for that MATOC are required. It is not a goal. It is mandatory for that 25%. Along with, that's from MATOC, IDIQ also for the professional services, which
I have some questions on IDIQ, so I'll wait till we. get to
okay,
that.
yeah. So both we are aggressive in those goals for those procurements, along with seeing ways that we can meet small business goals for highly specialized materials that require, very specific manufacturing services, and or trying to see if there's a way to get small business involved in any part of that supply chain to delivery of the product.
So it'll be through the supply chain probably.
Whatever we can identify that we will be able to, look at those as options, and I can come back to you with what those numbers look like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had so you had indicated that we had previously approved the 507 million to procure these other commoditized materials. We're just adding the troughs. Do you have an estimate of how much this particular?
So I have an estimate. I don't have it on hand right now. What the reason that we didn't ask for an increase in the 507 million is that one of our procurements that we have already awarded had a significant cost savings that came back into the large overall pot. We also have 3 other active procurements, 2 of which we have identified cost savings in those as well. We anticipating prior to award. So I'm not coming in asking for any additional funds at this time because we're already seeing cost savings with our procurements. Once those procurements are complete, I'd be happy to give you what those numbers look like for the cost savings that we see for all the materials that we've been able to acquire through competitive means has driven prices down for.
Okay, I think you answered the question that because I wanted to understand whether we had the risk of coming back, given that this was added. So you're saying no. And do you anticipate there being any other commoditized materials to keep us on schedule that might be added later, or is this it?
At this time, I have no other materials that were identified. Again, it's an evolving process working with the contractors in, within our TSCC negotiations. So it's working through to see if there's anything that we need to offset or purchase in advance. As of now, these are all the materials that we have identified that we need to procure in advance.
Chair.
Jeff?
Yeah, and that adds a question. So the cable troughs weren't in the original budget of 507 million?
They were not, correct.
We're not surprised we need cable troughs, right? I mean, obviously we needed them.
We originally intended that the track and systems construction contractor was going to include those. There's other some materials that made sense for the track and systems contractor to procure, that we weren't going to see significant cost savings, and there wasn't any sort of significant lead time concerns that I was trying to offset by procuring them in advance. When we procure, these materials in advance, we're kind of absorbing some of that risk, but it also helps save schedule and it saves cost, right? So we essentially said, hey, the TSCC contractor would procure all of these items, and during our negotiations, we determined that the lead time. So we don't have any other items at this time that we've identified that we need to.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. That's helpful. When we come with these in the future, I would love an estimate, even if it's just a swag, just so we have some sense of what you're asking for. Because
absolutely,
I have no sense. And the other thing is, I think it's important you referenced lowest responsible bidder.
Correct.
One place it's written that way in here, one place it's just written as lowest bidder. So let's just always make sure that word's in there, because that's a big protection for us.
Absolutely. And when we evaluate for IFBs, we do look at responsibility of the bidder, whether or not they conform to the IFB and so on. And so that's something, but I will make sure that we address that going forward, that language is explicitly included.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And when you say we're assuming some risks, can you just talk about what those risks are?
Yeah. So, procuring it in advance, right, is we are doing the labor and we are doing all of the negotiations to get those materials. So, you would give the contractor that, and they would absorb that risk. But when they absorb that risk, they're going to offset. It's going to be an increased cost, right? And sometimes a pretty significant increased cost. So it's never perfect. It's a sliding scale of like what makes sense for us to procure in advance so we can have cost savings and schedule savings versus what is it's just not, you're not going to sit there and have every single nut and bolt for us to procure if the TSCC contractor can procure that. So it's just, we essentially absorb that by procuring in advance, but then we have a significant cost savings. And we've been very successful so far on our active procurements. And we can give, as soon as the other 3 close, which will close very soon and we'll have awarded, I'm happy to report what kind of cost savings we also saw in addition to the cost savings of not a contractor procuring those for us. Thank you.
So Emily, is it fair to say that in terms of your staff and yourself, are you the expert in this area? Do you have other people who are also expert in this area?
For the actual technical materials, I have other experts that support me. So from a technical standpoint, our chief of construction, Ed Fenn, has been critical to identify that we needed the cable troughs in advance. And so using my expertise with his expertise, we were able to come together. And then that's why I'm coming to the board today for this procurement.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Director Camacho.
Are we using Piggyback contract, Ms. Hall?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
The Piggyback, are we using that? Can we piggyback on a buy even with Right Lane or somebody like that? They're using the same kind of materials. Since we're looking at a large amount of money, maybe it would be some cost savings there.
It's something that I haven't looked at the current moment. We're really focusing on trying to get all of the materials for the lane track, but you absolutely are correct. There are mechanisms in place where you can procure commoditized materials or even services in conjunction with other authorities or agencies to see greater cost savings. And that's absolutely something that my team and I can definitely look into for you as well. Absolutely.
Any other? Yes, Director. No.
I'm going to move the item.
Oh,
Okay.
wait, I have a comment.
Oh,
Sorry.
can I just make my motion, Lynn, and then you can,
Sure.
just with the caveat that you'll come back and give us the small business percentages at the end of the procurement.
Absolutely.
And also that this budget, what we're doing is we're not increasing the budget for what we approved before, but we're just adding in this. And if any change in that, you'll come back and let the board know.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
If at any time we are getting to a point where it's exceeding that, or we haven't seen that. Again, we've seen cost savings in most of them so far, but I will be able to provide you, once those procurements are awarded, I'll be able to provide that a breakdown to you guys.
Okay, I'm moving the item. Lynn.
I'll second it.
Director Shank, please.
Yeah, I second it. Yeah, I just want to say, Emily, thank you so much. You're just a breath of fresh air. And I like your continued use of the words cost savings. It's not something that we hear often enough. So thank you for that too.
Yeah, every dollar we save is another another mile of track we can lay. So absolutely.
All right,
Chairman,
we
I
have,
have a
yes, Director
question
Brea.
for it. First, I want to again commend our CEO for the plan he has put in place to move this project faster and in a more cost efficient way. The one comment I have is if the maker of the motion will consider a friendly amendment, and that would be under recommendation that we remove authorize the CEO or designee of the CEO to execute and award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder. Just speaking as one board member, knowing that we've just gotten all this money from the state government to move our project forward, I want to be more vigilant in how we oversee the awarding and expenditure of these dollars. So I would like to see, once we've gone through all this work, that it comes back to this board for approval. And I don't think that would cause much delay.
So we
Moving the project forward, but
So the original approval for the IFB that I came back in 2025 in August was for the solicitation and award of those procurements. So this adding to this agenda item isn't necessarily changing the fact that we had approval for all of those items, but I'm happy to provide, again, what contracts and I'm happy to provide us what we have active right now. We're not going to publicly say which procurements we have active and where we're at in the status of those. But we have seen cost savings in the one that we have awarded, and we have anticipated cost savings in one that is going to very soon be awarded. And I can provide you all of those breakdowns, and including what the competition looked like for those procurements.
and I understand that, and I'm obviously going to support the majority decision of this board. My only point is, I'm at a point where I want this board to be more active in terms of approving the work that we have authorized you all to do. And it's more of a quality control from my perspective, as well as making sure that we are holding ourselves accountable to the money the taxpayers given us expenditure. Not saying you're not doing your job. I'm just saying, in my opinion, that closes the loop. You're following processes to get us to an RFP to recommend somebody for approval. But I think to close the loop, this board has to have that final say to approve the actual contract.
So
I'm going to defer to Allison or Tom.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Fit in?
No, hold on.
I'm asking the maker of the motion if they'll consider a friendly amendment to their motion.
I'm going to ask council, because I think there
Yeah.
are some issues. We've already
Acted on this.
acted on this and provided the approval. And so that's in our contract documents already. We have a procurement out. So I'm hesitant to agree to that. Plus, I think that there are issues that may come up, and I'll defer to council, where we want to be able to be free of being the contracting entity, the contractor, so to speak, as the board. But I'll defer to
And that's the
council.
question of the maker of that motion to amend the motion.
Yes,
The
go ahead.
question is not that we be the signer or executor, but that the CEO, at the time that the CEO, prior to the CEO executing that contract, that be brought back to us for
Approval. Yes.
prior to the CEO executing the
Yes.
contract. So it's still the CEO that executes the
Correct.
contract.
Well, okay, maybe I shouldn't have said execute, but then approval is another word that means a level of contractual authority
Right.
when we approve it.
So-
But let me just ask council about that, because I'm not sure that have that authority.
Of course we do.
Well,
Well, just in the nature of how this procurement is going right now. We're in the middle of the procurement.
And I would have to come, so like the cable troughs, for example, is going to be a short procurement. With that lead time, we were anticipating awarding this procurement the first week of April. The current scheduled board is April 28th, I believe, and that could unnecessarily delay the procurement getting done in time for the cable
Okay,
troughs.
without having context of the value of this contract, that could be irrelevant to me. If you're coming to me on the 4th and saying, I don't have time to get back to you before the 1st, and it's a $50 million contract,
It's definitely not $50
I
million.
mean, I just
Yeah.
don't know. So
Yeah.
we can't have an opinion without having more information, but
Okay.
that won't work if it's real money,
Okay.
right? It just, that's not our problem, that you want to do something in 3 weeks. If it's a.
No, absolutely. And I can come back. I'm just cautioning that we're
No,
on a
that-
very
that's what I'm
shortened
talking
timeline.
to.
That's all.
I'm
That's
okay
only.
with it Waiting until the April
Right.
meeting for us to approve it. If we get
Again,
advice from council that it's appropriate to go forward. But let's hear.
So is there a motion? Well, yeah, I think I'm going to ask those who forwarded the motion and the second, if we could remove those from the table and, yeah, well, we had Len.
Len second.
Well, then,
She seconded it.
Yes, she did. So can we just withdraw the motion and recast this in some sort of a way that you're supportive of?
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I'd like council to just weigh in.
Can you hear me?
No,
Is this better?
no. Have you got a green light on?
Green light is on.
Okay, my green light is on. Hopefully everyone can hear me. No. Can everyone hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, question for Emily, is this an active procurement?
For the cable troughs, it is not at this time because again, that was not included in our original rail material procurement. So this was an addition to that and is not active at this time.
Okay. But this is asking to include this material in a procurement form. This is asking to include this type of procurement into a form of procurement that was previously approved by the board, as I understand it. So, question for Ms. Director Perea. Are you asking for an informational item? You want an approval item? Okay, so right now, and I'm just going to give you the legal parameters that exist. The CEO's delegation allows the CEO to approve contracts and procurements up to $25 million. So anything above that amount would, of course, come to the board for approval. Are you asking for the board to approve something if it's below that amount?
Yes. Yeah.
Let me ask a quick question.
And-
We
and-
already approved a maximum amount when we did this. So as long as we're inside that maximum amount, are we now changing the basis on which we are moving forward with this whole concept?
Let me let council finish her analysis.
So the overall amount was approved, but any contract within that realm as previously approved, if above $25 million, would have come back to the board anyway. So
So we don't need an amendment because it's coming back to the board anyway.
if it's 25 and over,
So
Then
Al,
everyone
the
has-
original procurement was for the full 507 approval. There was no, this was an IFB solicitation and approval that I was granted authority to solicit and approve as long as it stayed within that 507 million. We have very detailed cost estimates for each procurement. Part of the thing is we have all of these line items. And then when we have cost savings on any of those, all right, we can offset that with this additional procurement. I do have those numbers. I can provide that to you. I just don't, publicly providing what that looks like could jeopardize our active procurements.
But your point though is the 507 was approved. You
Correct.
Then did not need to come back with every item over 25 million with, right? The
Well-
507 approved that scope.
Correct, under 25, correct. But I wanted to come back to the board for an action item because I didn't want to just start throwing, rail
No.
materials
I
that,
actually believe this cable trough was not included, so it's a
Correct.
separate item. So I think we
Correct.
should be having this conversation, but to answer what what you just said is not correct. You do not have to come back after getting the 507. You have to come back again every time you award a contract within that scope.
No,
We
that is
had
correct.
one.
No, only if it's 25.
No.
No, not at all.
They didn't.
I think that, yeah.
No, I just want to make sure. everyone understands.
Correct.
Okay, my error.
The intent,
Yeah,
the
Jamie
the
would say.
intent did.
No, I think it's clear. And this is a new item
Yeah.
at the moment. If it's over 25, it'll come back to us.
No, generally speaking, the
Correct.
delegation of authority provides for that mechanism, that control in place. However, in the resolution 2506, the board provided authority for the CEO to go ahead and execute those contracts, staying within the strategy.
Exactly.
But remember, the idea was to move the project faster. So if the idea is to bring in additional steps that slow the process down, then we will have to come back to the board through its calendar and hold procurements that could jeopardize the commercial nature of these. If the CEO does not have the authority to execute under that strategy, that could cause a problem. That could cause delays to our schedule. That could also prevent us from laying track in 2026.
It might. Yeah, we don't know because this is all out of context without having figures, but
Well,
it
and
could.
Director Worth, we have everything budgeted. We have every line.
What's
item.
the estimate for the cable trough?
We don't want to share that commercially
Oh, okay. Got it.
because of, but I'm
I
happy to
totally
share
get
it
it.
with you.
That makes sense.
Happy to provide it to you.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, what
Can I
what
ask?
raises red flags for me in your comments right now?
Okay.
You know, and you read in the papers around the country where we had to go fast, so we couldn't give you the information or ask for your approvals, to get there, and then you have a problem. Okay, so to me, that is not a justifiable reason to either remove or minimize oversight by a governing body. Okay, could it cause delays? It might, but it just, in my opinion, forces the administration, meaning you all, to be more proactive in completing the work and getting it to us for a decision. To stand here and tell us, hey, because this may delay the project or we're trying to move as fast as we can, which I agree with and I support, but not without guardrails. And I'm not saying we're doing anything that is inappropriate, but what I'm saying is, in my opinion, closing a loop is important. And part of closing that loop is once you have completed your work, coming back to this board and asking for the awarding of or approval, whatever the proper term is, of the contract. And then it goes on to you all for the final sign off and administration. So that's what I'm asking of this board, and which is why I went to number 2. And I understand in the years past, we did allow the CEO under a previous CEO to have a broader authority in authorizing contracts. And there's been some issues with that over the time. And maybe we need to revisit that policy too, boards. But today, and like I say, I'm going to support whatever the majority of this board wants to do. But I think it's important that I express my thoughts on this process and why I think it's important that this board has final sign off, not just on this contract, but any contract that is awarded.
I just
I'll
have
leave it
to,
there.
yeah, I just have to say that, I mean, this is a massive project. I don't think this board can have sign off on every single contract. It's just, first of all, we have to delegate to staff some of this activity. We would be having to have meetings probably weekly in order to deal with the amount of contracts that this agency is executing. That's why we talked about a 25 million, and we can talk about that again. I understand this particular procurement to be mainly a materials acquisition procurement. There are some professional services obviously involved in this, but it's mainly to stockpile materials so that we have the ability to lay track all at once and quickly. And in my mind, it's not necessarily necessary for a lot of board oversight. However, in attempting to try to move this off the dime, perhaps we could have a committee that's a less than the board, so we don't have to try to get a quorum of the board to review, because I'm understanding these is coming through as multiple contracts. This isn't just one contract and one contractor.
For the cable troughs, it is going to be one, just the
Okay.
cable troughs is one contract.
But I think
correct?
your motion is for everything. It's not just the
No.
cable. troughs. Is it?
Just this.
Cable troughs.
So you want cable troughs to come back to the board?
Can I make a suggestion to
Sure.
an amendment to what what you requested, Henry, which is to say, if it exceeds the CEO's general delegation of authority. So in other words, if it exceeds $25 million, we'd like to see it.
Okay, if the cable troughs, I'll agree to that. The cable trough, is
Cable
it-
trough.
oh,
if
it's
that
itself.
exceeds 25 million.
Oh.
We would
I-
like to see it.
But
We'd like that for that to come back. So the delegation, it would essentially say the CEO is hereby authorized to execute and award a contract to the lowest responsible, provided it does not exceed the CEO's general delegation of authority.
I think where that comes into play is if we have savings, I don't think that should go into a piggy bank that we don't see if it's over 25 million. So if the 507 had savings, that you found $40 million of savings, that still has to be governed by this $25 million
Correct.
threshold. We may choose to change that, but at the moment, that's what the rule is, and that's what we should follow,
And
whether it's in a savings or just period, any contract.
Right.
Okay.
Because just to clarify, when we approved the $507 million cap, we essentially granted the CEO authority, an exception to this, to the limit on the CEO's authority now.
Correct.
that's
And
correct.
so we don't want to do that in this case, I think is what we're saying. For this particular procurement, we would like to apply the current delegation of authority, and if it exceeds that delegation of authority, we would like to see it.
I will take that amendment. Henry?
Yes, that's fine. And Mr. Chairman, for the future, I'd like our board to take a look at the current policy on delegation of the number and revisit that on a separate item.
Only about how many contracts are we contemplating under this program?
Specifically for the material procurement?
Yeah.
There is going to be seven procure, yes, total seven.
So
We have
don't-
one awarded, we have
I thought
three
you were going to
active.
tell me 20 or 25 or something like that, but there's just 7.
Seven, correct.
But we're just bringing back the
Yeah.
cable trough.
Correct.
Yeah.
If it's over 25 million
Correct,
to the board for approval.
correct.
Okay,
Okay, is that your motion?
that is
then,
my
Nikki?
amended motion.
All right, we
Well,
have an amended
That's
motion
a second, yes.
and by Director Schenk. Any other comments? All right, call
Director
the roll.
Schenk,
Yes. Can you
Chair
hear?
Richard,
Yes.
Director Camacho,
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller,
Yes.
Director Perea,
Yes.
Director Escutia,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Aye.
Director Worth,
Yes.
Director Cohen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and Emily, so you understand that it's just on this one?
Correct, yes.
Okay, great. All right. All right, thank you. We're going to now let Emily take it again. This time with the architect, engineer, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity.
All right, thank you. Again, Chair Richards, Vice Chair Miller, members of the board, I'm here today to discuss our upcoming indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract, commonly referred to as an IDIQ. I came to the board in 2025 as well for our informational item on our MATOC, which is the Multiple Award Task Order Contract. Our MATOC was for the civil construction work that would occur along the alignment. What I consider A&E, the specific IDIQ, is the sister contract for our MATOC. This provides professional services on a bench type that allows the authority to procure professional services of a variety of nature on a task order basis. Currently, our architect engineer IDIQ is structured very similar to the MATOC. It is a 5-year initial ordering period with no minimum guarantee or funding. The funding occurs at the task order level. For the task orders specifically, all task orders under the CEO delegation will stay with that, with us at the authority, and any that exceeds the CEO delegation for these task orders will come back to the board for approval. We have robust on and off ramp procedures put into the IDIQ for a variety of reasons. Number one, contractors, as we saw at the hearing on Monday, we have issues, some of the conflict of interest amongst different contractors. And in an effort to mitigate or reduce conflict of interest, contractors are allowed to onboard onto the IDIQ. They're welcome to bid on any other future procurements. In the event a future procurement conflicts with the current IDIQ, they would be off-ramped or they would request to be off-ramped. In addition, you can utilize off-ramp procedures for a variety of issues. In the event that the contractor does not abide by the 25% mandatory small business goals that are for MATOC and IDIQ, they will be off-ramped from the contract. Other things is poor performance, any variety of issues, you can off-ramp a contractor. It gives us leverage to do so. And then preserve on-ramp procedures in case we have new work, new geographic scope, anything that we need to add contractors. If people are removed, we can add contractors at any point during the live contract. We have this structured, we had an RFEI, and I will talk about that in a little bit, that we restructured this in a way for that there's 3 pools of contractors. There's going to be a major works pool that will handle any very high complex, high dollar value that requires a variety of multidisciplines, along with an intermediate works pool. We got the feedback that there were some folks that they were above the threshold for a small business and they didn't qualify for a small business, but didn't necessarily have the full scope that you would see with these large works contractors. So we created an intermediate works pool along with a small, the minor works pool. Contractors in the large works pool can come to the table and compete with their small business contractors. We do request kindly that the small business contractors that have already teamed with large also submit for the small. It is not required, but it allows that small contractor to prime on their self and or team with other teams if other work becomes available. The minor works pool is, again, variety of services. It's kind of a scope of, small dollar, $5 million or less type of work that's a variety of design or construction management services could go directly to the prime contractors. We have a wide variety of disciplines that are included in our statement of work. These are supposed to be all-inclusive and not limiting. So a variety from architectural, construction management, space, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, tunnel engineering, and any other professional services that are A&E related work, along with any incidental services that are tangentially connected to the majority of the A&E service. We had a market research. We conducted an RFEI, the request for expression of interest in the market. That was released in November of 2025, and it closed in December. We had a really great response of 197 businesses interested in this IDIQ, 155 of which were small business, which is really great to hear. Again, MATOC and IDIQ, from my background, I'm very excited to get as much small businesses involved into the program, not only as subcontractors, but predominantly as primes, right? And get them that ability to build up their experience and expertise and kind of lend that to hear what we see in the Valley and onward. We also had 30 large businesses that submitted responses that they were interested, and 12 businesses that had indicated that they would best fit the intermediate pool. I have spoken about this upcoming IDIQ kind of along with MATOC as well, and some of our other contracts that we have currently out on the market, including our P3 co-development agreement and our track and systems construction contract at the California Infrastructure Development Conference that was down in LA in December, along with the Small Business Annual Conference, the CMAA Standard Update Program, and the Business Advisory Council. We also have an upcoming small business workshop that is already planned in Los Angeles for March 25th. And primes will be there as well at the tables to talk with teaming, and we'll be there to encourage small businesses to submit in the small business pool as well to prime some of these contracts. let's see, what else do we have here? I think it's having technical difficulties with the slide today. Okay, perfect. We are planning to release the RFQ. It is a one-step that will be out advertised on Cali Procure this month, hopefully very soon. And we have the virtual pre-bid conference that is scheduled shortly after, along with the small business informational workshop at the end of this month. And we're hoping to get at least one or two more, probably at least one more scheduled while this procurement is active to get small business participation. The statement of qualifications will be due in Q2 of this year with an anticipated notice of proposed award Q2 and contract execution in Q3. And as I will remind everyone that any task orders, there's no funding on IDIQs. It is a bench level contract. There's no money involved. We will come back to the board for any task orders that exceed the CEO's delegation when we need that work complete. Do you have any questions?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Morrison. I call your attention to page 3 of your report, and specifically the last paragraph on page 3 in terms of meeting small business requirements, which I congratulate you because you said that you have quite a robust program in that effort. But I'm more concerned about the paragraph after that, dealing with DBE, the disadvantaged businesses. And according to your comment here on page 3, at the bottom of the page, the Department of Transportation issued a final rule, which made some significant changes to the DBE program. And so obviously the authority, in order to be in compliance with this new federal regime, you basically conclude that DBE contract requirements are currently paused and subject to revision. And as such, DBE participation goals are not scored in this RFQ.
That is correct, because that would violate the federal
Right, I
standard
understand that.
that we have to follow.
So let me just ask you a question, just for information and for my education. Do you consider that the small business category is an adequate substitute for DBE category?
I would have to, I don't know if I have an answer for you at that time. I would probably want to do a little bit of research to better fully understand the question and get a proper response for you.
I'd like to find out how many of those small businesses enterprise also are DBEs.
Okay, definitely something we can look into and get
Right.
that information for you.
All right, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
The pause that we talk about does not include disabled veterans, correct?
I'm not that I'm aware, but I can verify that information for you.
Well, they're not part of the current administration's,
Okay, then yes, then that statement's correct. Yeah.
Matt, can you just remind us again why it is we have to follow that? I mean, if you read the newspapers, the feds have taken all their money, so why do we care what they think?
Well, that's a really great question. And the reason is because we could receive federal funds in the future. And we do have active contracts that have grants, that we do have grant money that is still from the federal government, that is live money. And so we, as an overall program, should still follow all federal guidelines in the event that we were to get federal funds in the future. And then maybe get funds for these specific contracts as well.
You know, something about this seems, since we're 83 or whatever that percentage was funded by state, and the state will still have its requirements. They haven't changed state requirements. And I know we have ARA grants, so yes, we probably have to follow those, but for our funding where it's state funding, I don't know why. I mean, we're not going to be following this with our state funding, are we?
Sorry, ask that question again, Vice Chair Miller.
We're not going to be following the new federal rules regarding small business, disadvantaged businesses with state money. Because our state standards are different.
Okay. Let me speak with our small business team on all of the specifics, and I want to verify before I say publicly 100. Yeah,
Because I think this whole board would agree that where we're using state money, we would follow state procurement that still have all of those requirements, and it's still our goal as a board. We haven't changed that.
Okay.
I
So
think what she's saying though is that even if we're using state money, it's a violation of our federal grant in any aspect of the project to
in any aspect,
I'm going to defer to legal counsel because there has been quite a bit of back and forth, and obviously the rules there's a lot of fluctuation right now. So I'm going to just defer to counsel.
let's just get clarification on that, maybe the next meeting, because we're
Right.
not going to have
Yeah.
it this meeting.
Just what we do. we'll
Because
do- yeah.
the ARA grants are a federal grant with a particular scope. I understand that, but we also have state money, state contracts. So come back to us with some answer there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just bring it back next month, Emily.
Can I move?
There's questions?
I'm going to move the item.
No, this is
There
just
is-
information.
Oh, this isn't a,
Mhm.
oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
But Tom, I'd be curious to know how much federal funding is at risk if we just said, okay, thanks for sharing. We're going to do what we're going to do. Because at this point, I'm not sure that I would be supportive of continuing to change our policy on the hope and prayer that we might get federal funding in the future. That doesn't seem very realistic to think with this administration. So I want to take those knee pads off and do what we do and do it based on our values and not what.
Yeah, Jamie, would you bring back next month? Just bring back what we would be at risk for.
Because I think other state agencies
yeah.
are dealing with this. We're not the only one.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right, so if we can just get a report then next month from both Jamie and Emily, that would be good. If
Absolutely.
Jamie, that would be helpful too, is just for me to understand, let's assume we get to 4 years from now and we have a different administration. Can we turn things back on with this project? You know what I mean? Are we able to turn things back on or?
It's a very good question, Director
Just
Worth,
you have
because
to-
if you let a contract with state-only money, right, and you don't put any of the flow-down provisions for the federal government requirements, you'd have to amend the contract. That's another negotiation that could be.
And then, and
Commercial
already
implications. Now,
So any new federal money would have to be for some new scope that hadn't been contracted.
exactly,
Yeah.
because you've already set the
Help us
contract, you
understand
already
that
set the
at the next
terms
meeting.
of the,
Yeah.
of all the
Yeah.
the provisions. We got 2.5 billion in our funding. We got that in advance, and then now we spent against that money, and we're now spending our state-only money to match that money. Remember, it was done as a tapered match.
Right.
So $2.5 billion of scope was federal money used up front. Now we have spent the match, and we're sending our additional state to complete the scope, as Director Miller was mentioning, for ARA. And there's an additional $240 million of federal grants that we still have. Like, if we go in a direction that could jeopardize those, it's potentially possible. So it's about 2.8 billion.
Let me just remind you that even you in your own conclusion on page 3, it's basically what board member Worth is indicating. You're indicating that the A&E IDIQ contracts in terms of DBE provisions, that those requirements are currently paused. So to really get a clear answer to board member Worth's question, if they're currently paused, does that mean that in the future, and if we are allowed to, if say a federal administration changes, can we reinstate those DBE requirements?
Absolutely, anytime. So the IDIQs give you the flexibility that you can evolve the goals if it's going to match what the state, what
Okay.
the state requires. You can change it at any time.
Okay, no,
And you
that's-
can set the standard for those small business goals for people to be able to stay on the program. We qualify architect and engineer based on professional services. And so that's, again, that at any point we can
So
hopefully
what
that
you're
makes.
saying, Emily, is you can change the goals on existing contracts.
Correct, yes. Because it's at the funding's at the task order, so we're not giving any money at the IDIQ base. And so if there's updated goals, the task order, you typically negotiate also at the task order level when you cut an individual TO. And so you could say, hey, we have updated guidelines for what small business looks like. And I do think that, generally, you're not going to see, something where it's like all of a sudden it's 50% requirement, but you may see a little bit of sway upward or downward, and I can absolutely incorporate
What
that.
concerns me, Ms. Morrison, is that your last sentence says, as such, DBE participation goals are not scored in this RFQ.
Correct. So for the evaluation, again, this was to abide by federal rules. We are not scoring participants for that, but the overall procurement has a certification that requires what the current small business goals are. They're just not effectively scored to get on-ramped for the program.
All right. Again, I will renew my question. Are you seeing a trend towards substituting small business requirements for DBE?
I would have to get you further information from our small business team.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. If I go to page 1 on paragraph 4, if you could walk me through this process where it says task orders will be awarded pursuant to the A&E IDIQ terms and applicable procurement requirements without the need for formal evaluation at the task level. So what I'm trying to separate in my mind is clearly you're using current state processes to, I'm assuming.
Yes,
Yeah.
supplement how, so IDIQ obviously is
Let me just finish.
Mhm.
Okay. So you're using processes that are in existence now, but in the order of expediting our project, we're also, it feels like we're creating like a subset of policies, procedures, or protocols, which is fine, if that gets us to the end result of awarding something faster. But if that's the case, my question is, what policies, procedures, protocols internally have we developed for you to execute that? Does that make sense?
a little, can you, so you're saying what formal policies have we
Yes.
put in place to do the task orders?
Yes.
So again, we're working with our council. We have active procurements for the METOC that we were working through. We have an established task order ordering guide. And so that sets into place how we procure. Now, the construction services are a little bit different for the METOC because they are individually, task orders are individually competed within each pool, okay? For IDIQ services, IDIQ is evaluated differently than how construction services are evaluated, which is based on Brooks and within the state of California, Baby Brooks. And so when we evaluate these contractors, they're evaluated on their professional qualifications, their experience, their past performance, their capacity, right? And so at the individual task order level, we aren't formally having them compete against one another. I'm using a process very similar to what I used at the federal government when I did my IDIQ, that we mini board, we do a mini internal evaluation based on the original statement of qualifications that the contractors provided. Now, contractors typically can provide updated qualifications and or any new information, new projects they've worked on so that they consistently can provide us new quals that we evaluate and score people on. But it's a mini evaluation on which contractor that we have on the bench would be best suited for that specific task order.
Okay.
Does that answer?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So, and maybe within the RFQ process
Mhm.
that we use,
Mhm.
RFP process, I mean, those I'm familiar with, whether it's a city or county or a state, there's a process.
Mhm.
And this IDIQ, maybe that's already a known
It is. It's
state
a
process.
Well, it's not a state process. It is a well-established process
Okay.
that they use at the federal government. They use it
So
up
you'd be,
at
so
the
you'd be
department.
working this through those processes. Now we get to the operational level. You've gone through the processes.
Mhm.
And in essence, you all in moving quickly are going to be awarding these things.
We're going to
Okay.
institute the
Let
process.
me finish. You're going to be awarding these contracts. So my question then is kind of a subset of up here, what you're doing in this process. What are your protocols? What are your policies and procedures? What will, if you leave tomorrow and someone takes over your spot, what are the protocols? What's the policies, the process to get to that decision of picking somebody, number one.
Mhm.
And number two, we've had discussions at different times on this board is you award
say you award something beneath or below the level that the CEO is authorized to approve, but then fast forward 3-4 years later, you have somebody who has a $200 million contract that never came back to this board because it was awarded in pieces. What are the guardrails, the safeguards against that happening?
Yeah, so again, we have an active, procurement is going to be active. And so some of those policies and procedures in place would reveal to the public what that process looks like. We have been working with council to set up the guardrails that you are looking for. Like I said, for MATOC, ordering guide, what those look like. So we'd be happy to provide you copies of any policies or procedures you would like to see.
Okay, what policies and procedures do you have now? And when can we expect to see those policies? Because we're talking about moving pretty quickly.
Yeah, Director Pereira, I think you bring up a very good point about internal governance. So you made a mention of an example where if a contract is executed under delegation of authority, but subsequently services exceed, and we want to amend that contract, we have to bring that to the board under the delegation of authority. It would not be approved otherwise. So internally, what we have is a governance structure where we have what we call our business oversight committee. It is comprised of all the executive teams that do a legal, financial, procurement, and technical review of every request for any dollar of capital money in our program. The BOC, as we call it, documents our approval process, our decision-making, the feedback and comments from every different function within our organization. It also is a step where it controls if it is an item that requires board approval, we make that known and we put that on the agenda for the next board hearing or meeting. So we have a pretty robust process internally to ensure that items don't just slip through, that they follow that defined internal governance decision-making process.
Okay, when can we see those policies? And I know council, you work on it. When-
Happy to, we'll send them to you today. Absolutely.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any additional questions at this time?
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Item number, the new item number 5 is the 2025 sustainability report. Good morning, Ms. Lucci.
Good morning, Board Chair Richards and board members. My name is Ben Lichty. I'm a principal transportation planner at the High Speed Rail Authority, and I will be presenting today on the 2025 sustainability report. The authority published its first report 10 years ago, covering calendar year 2015. The 2025 sustainability report is the 10th published report focusing on activities that occurred in the calendar year 2024. And progress on key commitments that the authority has made. Can move the slides. Let me see. The first category that the report includes is energy, emissions, and air quality. On this slide, you'll see a number of metrics related to the emissions from our construction activity, and we're reporting that more than 90% of the 4,000 vehicles and construction equipment used on the project comply with EPA Tier 4 standards. We've avoided 630,000 pounds of pollutants since the start of construction. So you can see this is compared to a business as usual scenario where the air quality and environmental impacts of our construction activities have been reduced based on the requirements that we put in our procurement documents. This is related to construction package 1 through 4. Forecasting greener travel in the Golden State. These metrics capture the ridership that the authority will experience based on a full capacity scenario for the Palmdale to Gilroy service plan. So this is reporting 500,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions that would be avoided annually as part of the Gilroy to Palmdale project section, which results in 1.4 billion vehicle miles traveled reduced annually and 14,000 air trips annually. As many of you understand, the benefits of high-speed rail are related to getting people out of cars and airplanes and onto high-speed rail trains. I want to talk through this graphic a little bit to help understand the emissions are on the top of the bar. So if you look, trying to get the pointer, if you see the emissions on the top side, for the last 10 years, we've captured the emissions from construction in our reporting requirements with the different contractors on the program. And on the bottom side of this, you can see the sequestration metrics that we capture through tree planting, agricultural conservation, reuse and recycling of construction materials, and sequestration through habitat and land conservation. To date, we have sequestered and avoided nearly 250,000 tons of emissions. The sequestration efforts include agricultural land conservation, habitat preservation, construction waste recycling, and landfill diversion. The next category is natural resources. This is capturing the land that we have conserved and preserved through 2015 through 2024. So 4,630 acres of habitat for wildlife. We've conserved more than 3,470 acres of ag land, and we've awarded $2.5 million for urban tree planting in disadvantaged communities. We've reforested 1,800 acres through the tree planting program, and we've avoided potable water use with over 90% of construction water coming from non-potable sources. Protecting our state's wildlife, we've preserved and restored habitat to support biodiversity and environmental quality. 511 acres of wetlands have been restored as part of the 4,600 acres of land restoration, and 600 plus wildlife crossings have been planned or constructed. The high-speed rail system serves as the backbone of all electric zero-emission interregional travel and is integral for reducing road and air miles traveled in California. The system contributes to California achieving its goals of carbon neutral transportation system by 2035 and a carbon neutral economy by 2045. This slide summarizes the construction activity through December 2024, identifying the tons of materials that have been recycled, reused, stockpiled, composted, and less than 5% that has gone to a landfill. As many of you understand, the most sustainable thing that the High-Speed Rail Authority can do is to get people onto trains. As I mentioned, the high-speed rail contributes to the state's goal of carbon neutral transportation system by 2035. I want to share a short example of the benefits related to this that relate to the program. As many of you know, we have contributed more than $700 million to the Caltrain Electrification project, and that electrified service started in 2024. Some of the metrics related to getting people on trains are 250,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide, which is an equivalent of taking 55,000 cars off the road annually. Additionally, and most importantly, or most notably, is the 89% reduction of black carbon that the train riders experienced when diesel trains were in service. Additionally, travel times in the Caltrain corridor have improved by more than 25 minutes for a San Jose to San Francisco trip on the new electrified service. And that has resulted in improved ridership and quality of life for those who live around the train. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Questions or comments for Mr. Latham?
I just love that picture with only 2 cars on the highway. I think you're showing the progress that we're trying to get to. Yeah. So thank you. That's the goal there.
And I just want to also say, Ben, for those of you that take the train from San Francisco to San Jose, it's amazing how much different that is now that it's all electrified. So good job.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I wanted to also thank you for the briefing we had the other day, good information. And I know when you mentioned electrification like you did today, I asked a question that's a little bit out of your realm, but understanding that we're going to be running trains very soon, we have to have an electrified system. So, Mr. Chairman, if we could get a report soon or a presentation by staff on a plan for electrification and where we're at right now in discussing with PG&E and whichever entity, as well as the solar component, just a really detailed presentation of what you're working on, the timing of being operational. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Ben.
Thanks.
We'll move on to the
No,
next.
no, I have a question. I guess you don't see my hand raised there. I'm just curious on the air traffic that from Palmdale to Gilroy, the savings there. Can you just give me a little bit deeper dive on that? Is that from looking air traffic from Burbank, or where is that reduction coming from?
Yeah, I can call up our staff who helped prepare these documents. Young Bo is here from the sustainability team, and he can share a little bit of an update on where those numbers come from and how
I know there's a small airport in Palmdale, but I don't know how much traffic there is between Palmdale and Gilroy. So where does that come from?
Right. So in the slide, we referred to the
77,000, something like that.
the SF to so we have the SF to Victorville section call out, right? Which essentially these annual emissions avoided figures come directly from our updated ridership models, in which then you can assign emission
14,000 air trips reduced annually. That's the number.
Oh, I see.
Yep. So there are two main components to the emission reductions, right? You have reduced VMT, right, and then you have the air trips avoided. And what I want to emphasize is that these benefits don't only come from the Gilroy to Palmdale, right?
Oh, I understand that. That's what I was asking. Is it at a
Well, because there's network effects, right? So you'll have riders that maybe come from San Francisco and go all the way to Victorville or into the LA area that are using California high-speed rail track, right? They're only able to do that trip because you guys build this track, right? But that's replacing an air trip that could be from SFO to LAX, for example. So you have a broader set of origins and destinations of airports, right? Where you're seeing reduced air trips. Does that answer your question?
As Henry would say, yes and no. I think that's a real stretch if we're talking about Palmdale to Gilroy to say that we're saving trips from SFO to LAX.
So it's really a factor of the ridership model. As many of you know, we update the ridership model on a pretty regular basis as we look at business plans and project update reports. There's a whole set of assumptions that go into the ridership modeling. Part of that is the air traffic. A lot of the travel today from north to south and south to north is on air travel. So even if it is a portion of the trip, that captures a piece of the existing flights. So, if you imagine there's a Gilroy to Palmdale section, as Jonathan mentioned, a portion of that ridership is shifting people out of the planes and into the train. So whether it's 14,000 or some other number, there's certainly a black box of a lot of assumptions and information that goes into our ridership modeling. So the 14,000, this isn't a real number. This is a projection. This is an estimate that's based on a number of different factors that goes into our ridership model. And it's the best tool that we have at the time to capture the benefits of high-speed rail and that mode shift that we're anticipating. As you know, there's a number of factors, including cost. So the cost of a ticket to go on a plane and the cost of a train ticket might change someone's decision whether they're going to fly or take the train.
No,
The
I
convenience,
understand that, but let me just interrupt. What I'm getting at is it's no secret that high-speed rail has, let's say, a stretch to maintain trust in the public. And that trust comes from realistic numbers, that trust comes from transparency. And when we say something like this, it just has a big question mark in my mind. How do we justify that? If I go out and I speak on behalf of high-speed rail and I say, we're going to save 14,000 air trips annually, roughly, that I've got to feel confident that there is some reality there. And I don't feel that in this kind of a number. And so I'm just saying, let's under-promise and over-deliver, as the saying goes, and not stretch credulity on the part of people. So when you say, and again, you say Palmdale to Gilroy, you immediately start thinking, well, what's the air travel between Palmdale and Gilroy? And we've got to be realistic and transparent is all I'm saying. And maybe that is our wish list, and I hope it is, but is it something that we can justify? And at this moment, I just don't feel confident that we can.
Yeah, and that's noted. I think it would be helpful. I don't have the information in front of me, but to capture how many annual air trips that exist today between north and south. I know that it's a large number. I know it changes each year, but in that effort of maintaining trust, I think it would be good to show that this 14,000 air trips is a small fraction. It's not 90% or 100% of the air market. It's likely more like 10 or 5% of the air market. So the percentages that we're showing here are estimates. We do hope to have public trust around these numbers, but there are a lot of assumptions. And as I mentioned earlier, the greatest benefits of high-speed rail come from getting people on trains. That's when we see the shift from driving and from flying. And the focus of a lot of our information and data right now is in reporting on construction emissions and what we're doing to offset that. But we are certainly looking to a brighter future where it's not only high-speed rail, we have better transit in our cities that connect to high-speed rail, and it's the network effect of having better transit throughout the state of California that all feeds into high-speed rail stations, where it encourages that mode shift and makes it easier for the traveling public to get on and off of trains and from Northern California to Southern California. And if you're visiting or if you're commuting, the idea is that there is a network effect. So it's not only the 14,000 planes and the $1.4 billion or 1.4 billion vehicle miles traveled reduced. It's really the network effect of all of those pieces that are coming together. And we'll have another update. I can follow up for your information, Lynn, on what some of those numbers are with the air travel and the vehicle miles traveled.
All right, Ben, thank you very much. We'll now move on to the next item, which is the 2026 business plan. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. I guess still morning. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you, Chair Richards. Thank you, Board of Directors. I'm excited to be here today to talk about the draft business plan, which was just released over the weekend. Wanted to first kind of say a big thank you to our team. There's a ton of work that goes behind putting together any of these reports. Our business plans, our supplemental project update report. As you know, we had put out a supplemental last August, which really truncated our timeline. So our team put in a ton of work to get to where we are today. So really want to thank them before we dive into the plan here. A couple of just procedural things for your awareness. So as we put out our draft business plan, that kicks off a 60-day public comment period. Our intent is to bring back a final draft plan to the board in the April 29th board meeting, and then ultimately by our statutory deadline of May 1st, release that to the legislature. So let's dive into the plan. I think I'm controlling the slides here. Okay, perfect. So the way that our plan is structured, we really look at this as a program, ultimately, more than just a passenger rail project. Obviously, that's an important component of it, but really, thinking about how we go beyond mobility, really this project being a catalyst for economic development, economic growth, environmental sustainability, and equity, really to meet not only high-speed rail's goals of multimodal travel, but also statewide goals. As you know, we are connecting our largest population centers from LA over to San Francisco, the Bay Area, one of the largest economies in the world, right? Connecting those two population centers and throughout the valley. And really, as we think about this corridor, we really want to, show that this is a true business plan, not only providing passenger rail services, but a lot of the opportunities for growth that come with that. All right, so getting into our delivery strategy for the plan, there's really kind of three key components of it. One, showing a viable pathway to complete the Merced-Bakersfield initial operating segment, initiating service as soon as possible. We really want to thank the legislature and the governor for the extension of cap and invest, which is really a huge boost and shot in the arm for the program that allows us to complete Merced-Bakersfield. We outline a path, and I'll get into it shortly, of delivering that, completing our construction by 2032 and providing operations shortly thereafter. The second major piece is still that broader vision of getting beyond the valley, connecting those population centers. So how do we move forward to actually achieve revenue positive service? We lay out the fastest pathway to do so, which is that Bakersfield to Gilroy up the peninsula to San Francisco, providing that service there. And then, as I mentioned before, the third piece of the plan is really looking at early asset commercialization and ancillary revenues, really building upon global best practices around high-speed rail programs. So this means, power generation, power transmission, broadband, station area development, other partnerships, really to help supplement the program as well as benefiting the communities that we go through. So as we think about Merced-Bakersfield, one of the good things about this program, we have continued that approach of a bottoms-up review of the entirety of the alignment. What that produces actually is a $2 billion savings that we are presenting to you all and to the public. We were at $36.8 billion in our supplemental project update report to deliver that segment. We are now at $34.8 billion, still within that 2030 to 2033 delivery window for operations. We plan on doing 8 trips per day. The big thing for us is laying track by the end of the year. That's going to be a huge milestone for our program. We have a track and systems contract that's out on the street right now, looking to get that awarded by the end of Q2 and really marching towards delivery of rail by the end of the year. We talked about actually having operations beginning in 2033, and then did want to just touch on the fact that we probably are one of the largest safety programs in the state as well, just with respect to all the structures that were highlighted in our Central Valley construction report. But really, we are looking at grade separations and really helping to separate rail, roadways, pedestrians all together. So a huge safety benefit that this project brings. Also, the optimizations. So when CEO Chowdhury came in, he really challenged our team to look at changes that could help us deliver faster and more cost effectively. We continued that approach through this plan. As we highlighted in our supplemental project update report, 14+ billion in savings in the valley from those optimizations. We've continued that through the entirety of the phase 1 service. If you look on the screen there, 105 billion in program-wide savings if we had not factored in a lot of those optimizations, really working on this project in a building block approach and delivering the infrastructure we need for the ridership that we see in the near term. So we do present a pathway to get to Los Angeles. We had a comment in our hearing that was just on Monday from the Assembly Transportation Committee. Do you believe that this project will get done? Absolutely. Absolutely, we believe that. We have laid out a pathway to get there, a pathway to not only complete the valley, but extend out into the Los Angeles basin. Some of the actions that we do need, and we want to be fully transparent about this. We do have challenges with the program, and we continue to highlight some of the legislative policy changes that would help us, provide some of that certainty. Just as we try to de-risk the program for the private sector to ultimately come in, we need to de-risk the project for ourselves. So that is, some of the challenges we've had with utilities, right-of-way acquisition, et cetera. So we still do highlight those within the plan. So reaching the population centers, really this does lay out that pathway where this is doable. We see, with our San Francisco to Bakersfield segment, a cost recovery ratio of upwards of 200%. As we get into the optimized phase 1 that we outline, over 300%. So this table here talks about the overall costs of delivery. As you'll see, 126.2 billion to deliver that San Francisco to LA Anaheim approach. That is down about $1 billion or $2 billion from our previous estimates of that full phase 1. But as mentioned, continuing in an optimized approach. This lays out various scenarios in terms of funding per year that we'd need to actually deliver those segments. We would look to deliver, as mentioned, our Merced to Bakersfield, still construction complete by 2032. All the other scenarios, if fully funded, by 2039. I'm going to connect to the next one. So talked a little bit about delivering in an efficient manner, really building upon what we outlined in the project update report. Sorry, there's a little bit of lag in the slide deck here. But this is the piece that I'm really excited about. This is where we talk about this as a corridor of opportunity, more than just a rail project. Really leveraging our assets, thinking about how we can support those broader statewide goals. There is real revenue to come into the project as we move forward with that. We talked about partnerships. So we do have a RFQ that is out on the street to bring in a public-private partnership co-development partner that we'd bring on, hoping to get that awarded this spring. That will allow us to have those conversations to see what is in the realm of possibilities for the private sector to participate in our program, and then allowing us to move forward into the future of what that could look like if we're able to reach commercial terms. So that's something that we continue to push on. We've had a significant interest from the private sector stemming back to our industry forum that we did back last January, as well as the RFEI that we issued late last year, where we had over 30 responses. So funding, talked about cap and invest, allowing us to complete the valley. We want to go even further beyond. And then low cost financing. This is something that we do highlight. So even with the cap and invest program that we have, providing that $1 billion a year through 2045, we do need a mechanism to actually accelerate those funds forward. We want to be fully transparent about that. If we are to deliver in that 2030 to 2033 window, we need to pull those dollars forward to allow us to continue construction. So continue to work with the administration as well as the legislature on opportunities there. And then our last slide, and I will stop there to see if there's any questions from our board members here. But this does, as mentioned, kick off our public comment period. So the business plan was released on Saturday, is available for review at the link above. We also do have a URL for you all to provide comments to us. We welcome those comments. We do want to make sure that we can really work with communities, continue to hear from stakeholders about how we can improve that plan. You see the email address up there as well, and you're welcome to also mail comments to us the old school way through our mailbox up there. So with that, I will pause to see if there are any questions from our board members.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe more of a comment than a question. And that is to say, even in today's board meeting, I think you and the staff have seen that there's a lot of close attention that will be paid to some of the nitty-gritty that happens on a month-by-month basis or even day-by-day basis where appropriate for this board. But big picture, I could not be more supportive of the strategy that the team, the management has laid out for getting this done as reflected in this plan. I mean, this is how this gets done. Not because we think it can get done this way, but the proof is in the pudding in terms of what we've seen around the world. We have functioning, essential high-speed rail systems existing in the rest of the world that you do not see in the United States. And the way they did it is the way this plan lays out. It's optimizing and building the initial operating segment in the right way. It's creating a plan and a revenue plan and a revenue stream that gets us to the population centers as soon as possible so that we can then build beyond optimization, building out the full system. And part of that second piece in terms of the revenue is looking at how do we commercialize it? How do we generate revenues in other ways? This is how Japan has a high-speed rail system. This is how Europe has you cannot go anywhere in the world and not see commercialization, real estate use, other coexistent revenue sources like laying fiber optics and using energy. All of those things happen. It's so refreshing to finally see this laid out so clearly and the path being done so clear. So I want to acknowledge that. I know it gets tough in the nitty-gritty, and you guys hear us asking tough questions up here. And that should be what you expect us to do, and it's what the public expects us to do, is what our appointing authorities expect us to do, is to ensure we have accountability for bringing this forward. But this vision cannot be lost in that minutia. This vision is right, it's strong, it's powerful, and it's doable because it has been done and we will do it. So I just want to thank you and congratulate you guys for getting this to us in such a clear manner. And I'm fully supportive of this plan.
Thank you, Director Williams. Other questions? Yes, Jeff.
It's going to sound pretty boring after that, but I couldn't figure out what the review period, the comment period was. So what's the deadline for comments?
So we have a 60-day comment period that's outlined. We intend to bring this back in final form to you all at the board April 29th.
Okay, great. And sorry, you mentioned one term, power generation. I didn't know the context of what you were referring to as a potential, I thought it was as a potential revenue. Could you give me a little bit of that?
Yeah, happy to. So as part of our project, we intend for this to be powered by clean energy. So we are exploring ways. We actually did put a request for expression of interest out on the street to solicit feedback from the private sector, not only to allow us to, generate the power that we need for, the actual rail, our traction power systems, but also are there opportunities for us to generate even beyond, support the communities that we have, look at potential revenue generating opportunities. So to Director Perea's questions about energy production, transmission, happy to follow up with you all. We do outline some of that in our plan. We also expect to learn a lot more over the ensuing weeks and months from the private sector about the interest there. And then we will be moving forward with a RFQ, RFP process later this year on clean power generation.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Mark, I call your attention to page 7 of your report. And the issue that really caught my attention was broadband. From the perspective of, I sit on the board of directors of the California Emerging Technology Fund. And this issue is one that concerns us in the sense that we believe very strongly in the dig once policy. That if we're going to dig, for high-speed rail, we're also going to do it in conjunction with fiber optic, stakeholders, et cetera. Is that incorporated in your plan, the dig once policy?
Yeah, that is absolutely our approach. Looking at ways for us to, and I know there was conversation around, cable troughs. That's something that we intend to do along the alignment. I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to absolutely dig once, think about, making sure that as we build that infrastructure to support, long linear transmission, not only power, but broadband, looking at those opportunities early.
All right, good. I'm going to hold you to that. I now call your attention to Appendix C, starting on page 51. And the issue that also caught my attention, because I am an appointee of the Assembly. And as you well know here, we're all political appointees. 5 of us are appointed by the governor. 2 of us are appointed by the Senate. 2 of us are appointed by the Assembly. I am an Assembly appointee, and that's my appointing authority. So on page 59, when you're talking about stakeholder alignment and as a way of pursuing mitigation and controls, I cannot tell you I just need to underscore this, how important it is that communication with the legislators has got to be constant. Second of all, and I know you have a very good external affairs department, but I would like to know, who are you communicating with, in the state legislature? I'm in the state capitol a lot, and the last thing I want to feel is like, as I'm walking the halls of Sacramento, someone says, "Oh, I met with some of your people," blah, blah, and I know nothing. So how can you develop a policy, a strategy, so that those of us who know nothing know something as we are, in Sacramento? That requires a lot of communication. So it's not only communication from your staff to legislators, which I trust it's happening, it's great, but it's also communication from your staff to the board members, since we are all political appointees.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Director. And I will say there is, restrictions in terms of, how we ultimately, communicate with the board. We have these forums here, but absolutely, hear your point. We heard in the public testimony earlier, just even, engagement with our local partners, right? That's a way that we are looking to, I think we've done a much better job of that, but there still is room for improvement. Similarly, with our board, with the legislature, absolutely. We were in the Assembly Transportation hearing earlier this week. One thing that the Transportation Chair asked us to commit to was quarterly briefings with their staff. We will absolutely take them up on that and provide information. So we are trying to be as transparent as possible with this program. We know we all need to work together to actually get this delivered.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to echo Director Williams' comments, and this is a great plan with a financial basis that has very little gaps. So I really appreciate the staff work, and thank you, Mark.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Director
Briefly,
Perea.
Mark, thank you for the presentation. Well done. And of course, need to thank our CEO, Ian, and all the staff that helped put this together. We wouldn't be here without all of you working on this. And I just wanted to comment, Supervisor Patrols that just texted me, said he's been listening, and he wanted to thank you again for calling him Saturday, letting him know, that it was coming. And just to follow up on your comments, it's all communication. So it's just how we increase our communication out to our communities to not just tell them what's in the plan, but get their input. And I think it just creates more buy-in. But thank you all for what you've done.
All well stated from all of my colleagues. Thank you very much, Mark. It's a great job. Thank you and for the entire team.
Move approval. It is, isn't it?
No.
Oh, I thought we were
No,
approving
no,
it to
no.
be circulated for public
No.
comment.
No, it's
Oh,
gone.
fine. If we don't.
It's already gone.
I'll withdraw the motion.
It's an informational item.
All right, thank you. We're now going to, before going to the closed session, we're going to have the Finance and Audit Committee report, and the Vice Chair is going to handle that this morning.
Very quickly, we have
Thank
3.8
you very much.
billion cash on hand. Our administrative expenses are within budget to date. Our grant funds are currently 4 billion. Labor is 1,248 workers on site daily. Right-of-way, on utility relocation, we're 92% done, and on right-of-way, we're 99.7% done. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
sorry, going back to the public comment at the beginning, there were references to a couple letters. I wanted to make sure, at least I had copies. I think there was a reference to a letter from Kern County, and then also from CSAC, and
The
it was
league.
just the League of Cities.
Yeah, well, it was from the Kern COG. That was one.
Correct.
And Special District Association.
And the
Special
first
District,
picture. Yeah, if we can get those 4 letters.
Yeah.
If they exist. that'd be
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into closed session now. After the closed session, at least I'll come out and report back to you. So thank you for your patience. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The closed session for the California High-Speed Rail Authority's Board of Directors is now closed. Today, the board met in closed session and completed its review of the independent counsel investigation to consider all available information regarding the matter concerning CEO Ian Chaudhry. The board requests Mr. Chaudhry return to work tomorrow, March 5th. The board has adjourned the closed session. Thank you all for being here.